A cracking sound like bones breaking rang out under the hunter's feet. The ice cracked. In just a moment, the giant block of ice he was standing on began to split in two. Ahead of them, an ice seal sensed danger. It dove into the ice hole with the speed of a live arrow, leaving the only opening the hunter could shoot in half a second. It's Alaska's oldest fight for survival, where every step could be the last, where a seal could save a family or take the hunter's life. And the question that has millions of people arguing still hangs in the wind and snow. In an era of supermarkets full of cheap meat, why do 10,000 Alaskans still have to risk their lives to hunt a creature that lives on the ice? And today, you will see why. Why ice seal hunting still feeds over 10,000 Alaskans, the deadliest hunt on ice. Amid the deadly silence of the Arctic, there is a truth the world always forgets. Before there were electricity lines, before there was an American flag flying over Alaska, there were people who existed here with only one thing: seals. "4,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Inuit and Yupik people learned to look for the faint breath of a creature rising from the cold, black water. For there was only ice, wind, and seals, the only creatures fat enough to keep a human body alive through the long winter of lingering death. Each skin is a coat of armor against temperatures of -50. Each drop of oil is the only light in the months-long Arctic night. Each piece of meat is what keeps the village children from starving when blizzards swallow all the paths. And those hunting rituals became the backbone of an entire culture. But today, the world looks at them and asks, why hunt these lovely creatures? Why not just buy meat in the supermarket like everyone else? There is a simple truth that the world ignores. In Alaska, money can't buy life. Food can buy, but way to get to the supermarket. then no. Many people are angry when they see a picture of a seal being hunted, but no one sees the image of an Alaskan child shivering because there is not enough oil for heating. No one sees the image of a family starving when ice cuts off their supply lines for a month. This is not hunting. This is survival economics, something that 10,000 Alaskans still rely on to survive each winter. And here's the question few dare to face. Do we have the right to judge a community that is trying to keep alive when we ourselves have never had anything to lose? In a place where the cold can tear apart a person's lungs, the seal is more than just an animal. It is something that stands between life and death. On the map of Alaska, not all animals are called ice seal, only four names. Four cold creatures living between the border of black water and freezing air truly decide the survival of the communities here. Ringed seal. This is the smallest seal species, and also the one that kills the most hunters. They emerge from fist-sized breathing holes in the thick ice. Appeared in less than zero point 0.5 seconds. If you slow down a heartbeat, they disappear into the black water, leaving thin ice beneath your feet that trembles with each beat. For the Yupik, ringed seal meat was the first dish of the cold season. Without it, the whole village would have to start the winter in hunger and fear. Bearded seal. An adult can weigh up to 600 to 800 pounds, enough meat and fat to feed a family for weeks. Its oil burns with a strong light, not extinguished in the cold wind. Thanks to it, the Inuit people have survived the months-long darkness for thousands of years. This is not a meat source. This is fuel of Arctic civilization. Spotted seal. shy, difficult to approach, precious as white gold. The skin of a ribbon seal has a strong contrasting black and white pattern. It looks like the armor of an ancient warrior. They are so rare that many hunters go their entire lives without encountering one. But if caught, its skin is used in ceremonial garments, an affirmation of a family's status and history. For the Inuit, the ribbon seal is living cultural heritage. Not something to sell, not something to show off, but something to give back for the next generation. These 4 seal species are more than just part of Alaska's nature. They are part of Alaskan people. They are warmth, fuel, light, food, tradition, faith, everything that separates a community from the white death of the Arctic. In Alaska, the seal hunt doesn't begin with a gun. It begins with a quiet goodbye to family. Because no one can be sure that the man who leaves the village in the morning will return before the sun sinks below the icy horizon. They pulled the small boatin, light but enough to withstand the waves. No big engines, no modern technology, just ice, wind, and the will to survive. On the ice, they sit motionless for hours next to tiny breathing holes. The seal's way of life. Every minute of silence makes their ears ring. Every gust of wind can signal the ice is about to crack. But the biggest danger isn't cracking ice, it's the wind. In Alaska, a strong gust can push an entire iceberg, and the hunter standing on it, far away from shore. 6 miles in just a few minutes. The seal is not as slow as the world thinks. When it hears the noise, it dives into the ice hole as fast as a live arrow. The moment it breaks the surface lasts only about 0.7 seconds. That is the only time a hunter has to pull the trigger. Miss once, and you lose the mark. Seals can dive deep and come up again over 300 feet or more, where the ice is thinner and more dangerous. On the ice, the work has only just begun. Adult seals weigh 100 to 300 pounds. It is impossible to drag the whole animal over long distances on slippery ice. Hunters are forced to handle it on the spot. On the cold ice surface, they used a knife to cut the thick skin. The warmth from the animal's body immediately created white smoke when exposed to air, -20 to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. They separate the layers of fat to get the oil, which will become fuel for lighting and heating throughout the winter. The meat was divided according to an ancient principle. No one was left behind. One portion went to the hunter's family, one portion went to the elderly who were no longer strong enough to hunt. One portion went to the village children. In Alaska, survival was always a community effort. And the ice is the world's largest natural freezer. Meat placed on the ice will freeze in just a few minutes. No machinery, no electricity needed. To the modern world, the seal is just another animal on the ice. But for more than 10,000 Alaskans, it is the most primitive, brutal, and fair economy, where everything is paid for with sweat, blood, and sometimes life. A single adult seal provides 60 to 150 pounds of meat. If you had to buy that amount of protein from a supermarket in remote Alaska, it would cost you $400 to $700. Money many families will never have. The grease of a bearded seal can yield 1 to 3 gallons of oil. In the cold of -20 degrees Fahrenheit to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, that oil is more than just fuel. It is life. In communities without reliable electricity, seal oil lamps are the only light during months of darkness. Seal skins, depending on the species, can be sold or traded within the community for $80 to $300 each. But most Alaskans don't sell them. They keep them to make coats, gloves, and boots, things that industrial clothing is never warm enough to withstand the 40 to 60 miles per hour Arctic winds. Alaskans have a saying, if you wear the wrong clothes at -40 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll die before you know it. And sealskin clothes are the reason they survive. But the seal hunt is only a small part of the Alaskan survival picture, because when the ice begins to melt, when the winds change direction, and when the seal herds become sparse, Alaskans do not stop at the edge of the ice. They stepped off the boat and entered a battlefield even larger and more dangerous. The sea was black, deep and cold, and filled with giant shadows moving beneath the waves. If seal hunting is a battle of split-second moments, then whale hunting is a battle of strength, perseverance, and respect for the ocean's largest creature. Arctic winds howled across the sea at 50 miles per hour, whipping up layers of ice as thin as knives. Under a steel-gray sky, the black water opened like the mouth of a giant beast, gaping silently. Then the sea suddenly bulged. A dark figure, nearly 50 feet long, rose from the water, a bowhead whale weighing more than 60 tons, a survivor of the Ice Age, older than human villages. On their small sealskin umiak, the Inuit hunters stood still. The strong wind made the boat shake, as if it was about to be thrown off the surface of the sea, because they knew just one swing of the whale's tail would be enough to send the whole group to the bottom of the sea in a few seconds. But they did not turn and run. They did not hesitate. They did not fear, because before them was more than just a whale. It was the lifeblood of the entire community, enough meat and fat to sustain the village through the 7 to 8 month winter. And that is what the world is arguing about. Why are people still hunting whales in the 21st century? The answer lies right here. Cold ice, steely winds, hunger, and a tradition older than America. a tradition that, if abandoned, an entire culture will disappear with it. Before Alaska had roads, electricity, or a government, the Inuit people relied on bowhead whales for survival for more than 2,000 years. Not because they wanted to hunt, but because the ocean gave them no other choice. In communities living between minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit and months of darkness, whale is more than meat. It is heat, fuel, clothing, and spiritual ritual. Every part of the animal is used. For the Inuit, the bowhead is not prey. It is a giver, a creature that helps the entire community survive the winter. A single whale can feed a village of more than 50 people for months. The world may protest, but for the Inuit, whaling is not the past. It is the present, and the only basis for their future on this cold, black ocean. Two hunts, two different battlefields. One takes place on the cracked ice beneath their feet. One takes place on a black ocean so deep that even light fails to reach it. In the cold of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, all moral arguments become small. Because when nature is so cruel that a mistake can take a life in 90 seconds, and as the world continues to debate from afar, Alaskans still step onto the ice, into boats, to face the Black Sea and the giant creature, as their ancestors did thousands of years ago. Not to conquer nature, but to survive another winter. If you want to continue exploring the fierce survival stories, ancient hunts that are disappearing, and worlds where humans must fight every day to survive, subscribe to The Discover.